Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. My name is Brandon Drum. I'm here with Parker Thune. And you already did the ad read, correct? We don't have to do any of that. Like, we're going to go right
No,
into
I,
this.
I do need to do that. I do
Oh,
need to
okay. I
make
thought
sure
you
we get
recorded it. My bad. Go
a
ahead.
word in for our sponsors.
We do.
Folks, first off, before I let you know which amazing company is sponsoring today's episode of the OU Insider Under the Visor podcast, I will remind you, go download the Autograph app. You want some cheap tickets to the OU Texas basketball game if you're listening on Friday night. And still trying to find a way to get to the Moody Center tomorrow. They've got ticket deals. If you're already listening on Saturday or any time subsequent, the Autograph app is still worth downloading because you can
Is
get
it
all your Sooner
the
news and
Thunder? Do they have
podcasts.
Thunder stuff?
They do not have Thunder stuff. It's all OU exclusive.
Okay.
You can use the code BOOMER. That's the promo code BOOMER by going to link.ag.fan/boomer. That is the link. Link.ag.fan/boomer. Type in promo code boomer and download the Autograph app. Great place to get all of your OU news, podcasts, personalities all in one place. And they got great deals for the fan as well. But this episode is brought to you by Manscaped, folks. Okay, Irish accent attempt number 3 this week. Top of the morning to you. This episode is brought to you by the St. Patrick's Day Shamrock Shavers. This year, don't just chase rainbows, make your own pot of gold and groom your little leprechaun with the leaders in below the kilt care. Say goodbye to your clover forest with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Embrace the luck of the Irish and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, folks, is your new lucky charm for St. Patrick's Day. It comes with 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads. It's equipped with dual LED spotlights so you can navigate your shamrock patch in peace. And if you're worried you'll make a mess, well, fear not. This wonder is waterproof. Shave by the misty moors, under a waterfall, or even during a rain dance. The compact case makes it an ideal companion, ready for any adventure or last-minute plans. Trimming the hedges in your Irish garden isn't just for below the belt either. Complete your look with Manscaped's signature Beard Hedger Pro Kit and the Handyman electric face shaver. Whether you're sculpting your beard or cleaning up your neckline, these are always the right tools for the job. Now you can get 20% off and free shipping with code INSIDER at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with code INSIDER at manscaped.com. So this St. Patrick's Day, make sure your little hairy leprechaun is luckier than ever with Manscaped.
There you go. I used the 5.0, by the way, the lawnmower. It's good. And no, I'm not for the little leprechaun. No. It's more for the for the chestella regions or whatever you call it, whatever you want to call it, the pectoral region. So there you go. It works in all facets. Even your neckline, you can use it for every now and then if you have to.
If you have to.
If you have to. I wouldn't recommend it. I just kind of made that part up. All right.
False advertising, folks.
Yeah, just don't do it. That's just gross. But anyways, yeah, it does work. I like it. It's good. So anyways, yeah, spring football. Let's roll into that.
Yeah,
let's get away from the lawnmower 5.0 and let's talk about a little foosball.
It is a matter of hours before spring ball starts. It's a lot of hours, but still a matter of hours.
36 as we record, to be honest.
Well,
probably more than that. I was just thinking,
not
30. Sorry, 72. I was thinking 3 days, 72 hours away. So, yep. Okay. First off, you're still in Oklahoma City, Norman, your area. I have a different backdrop, as you can see. I'm here down in Dallas early at a hotel, family out while we podcast. Because tomorrow morning, Caden is one of the few, I think he may be the only 5th grader that got invited to the middle school camp here in Arlington, the Under Armour. So we're going to go do that. And then we get to cover the actual Sunday. And Parker, you and I were discussing it off air. Man, it is loaded loaded for us. I mean, absolutely loaded. It's going to be, if you're an OU fan and you want up to date recruiting on what's going on with all the top targets that OU's in on out of the DFW Houston area, Austin, San Antonio, they're all there in Dallas this weekend. And whether it's 25, 26, 27, we're going to have so much information for you guys. It's not even funny, Parker. Like it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a loaded week for OU Insider
Generally,
fans.
generally, when you show up to a camp or you show up to a 7-on-7 tournament or something like that, like you worry about, okay, how do I spend all of my time once I get what I came for? Because for instance, even going down to the end zone tournament last weekend in Houston for me, I knew there were 4 or 5 guys there that I wanted to talk to, but you show up on Saturday morning and by the early afternoon, I'd already chatted with all of them,
Mm-hmm.
gotten all my interviews, gotten photos, gotten everything. And now I'm like, well, that's about it.
Yep.
That's all I came for. Now I just gotta kind of meander for the rest of this tournament. Going
Same.
to going to Arlington Martin this weekend, it's a matter of, okay, are we legitimately going to be able to make time to talk to
Correct.
everybody that we need to talk to?
It's insane. Like when was the last time we've had a list? It's been a couple
This
of
might be
years,
the
right?
best. This might be the
Yeah.
absolute best list of any Under Armour event that I've covered.
I guess we ought to thank the OU coaches because they've really made a focal point on Oklahoma and Texas again.
Yeah.
That it's made it really awesome for us because normally I would be on the road to Georgia, Florida, and we're going to be. Parker and I will be at the rivals camps and stuff when it comes time for that. But it's just this weekend for us in particular, like it couldn't be better. It honestly could not be better for us and for you all, the subscriber. So just be prepared for that. If you're not subscribed, I would go do it because uh, spring football starting up Monday. You got the Under Armour camp, then you've got all the 7-on-7, and you've got all the rivals camps kicking off that we will be at every other week or so. And Parker and I will be at the big 7-on-7 event in Tulsa next weekend that will have there's one team that has what they're going to have 7, 8, 9 OU offers on one. It's Sooner 7, I mean. And then C4 will have a lot of the 26 guys as well. So I think C4 has 6 or 7 guys that have OU offers as well. So like it between Sooner 7 and C4, and then you got the unit 918 with Caden Jones, and then you've got 918 just 7-on-7 and 918 elite that's going to have a lot of the union guys, whether it's Dejon Gaines from Union and all that. Like guys that we can there's always around 12 guys that we normally will go in and interview, and then it's like you just sit around and talk afterwards. So but this weekend is going to be a blast. This week is going to be a blast for you guys. And it really kicked off. What was it yesterday that we were there? It was right Thursday, right? No, it was Wednesday. It was 2 days ago, Wednesday. See, the days already running together for me. 2 days ago, we were is my mic still going, Parker? Just want to check it here.
Yeah, I think you might have lost it, but it's okay. Um, technical difficulties. Technical difficulties.
It's back. It's back. It says it's back. All right. But Wednesday we got to hit up, was it 23, 25 different players, right? Plus Venables?
It was 35.
35 different players. Oh my God. Yeah, that's insane. Absolutely insane. So, with that being said, we got Venables first. What was your biggest takeaway? Outside of the biggest news possible that Miss Julie is cancer free. Because that is just kudos to her. Kudos.
Well, I think if you're going down the list of things that stood out, number one, probably because it came first chronologically, was the news that Justin Harrington won his appeal.
Yeah.
He's back in 2024. That was one of the first things that Venables acknowledged in his press conference is, hey, we heard back from the NCAA this morning. Justin Harrington's good to go. We talked about it on the live. It was something we expected, right? There was no reason not to think that Justin Harrington was going to get his waiver. But We were all just kind of waiting on the official word, the official ruling from the NCAA. They got that ruling, they got that word. And here we are. The Sooners can add another versatile athletic chess piece in the back end of that defense heading into the 2024 season, and a guy that's played a lot of ball, a guy that's become very respected in that locker room as well. He's going to be huge for the Sooners defensively, even if he doesn't, even if he's not on Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman's level in terms of productivity. I think just what he brings from a cultural standpoint, the influence that he has had and continues to have on some of the younger guys, the leadership that he exhibits, you can't put a price tag on the return of a guy like that. So they'll be glad to have Justin Harrington back. They are certainly glad to know that his appeal has been successful. The other things that stood out to me were, one, Venables went out of his way to shout out that freshman class and the 22 early enrollees, and how they, without exception, have all accepted the challenge put before them and attacked it with the right mindset. And I think it's easy to see, we talked to 35 guys, like you just mentioned, Brandon, and every single one of those 35 guys, man, and getting to talk with them, without a single exception, you're like, okay, like this is a guy, this is a good human being. This is somebody who is not just football. This is somebody who's being set up for success in life, both on the gridiron and off. And that speaks highly to what Venables and his staff are accomplishing via all of the support systems they have within the program, most specifically the Soul Mission, because I can think back, and I'm not going to name names, but go back 4 or 5 years, it was pretty clear in talking to some of those guys that wore the crimson and cream that they were there for football, and football was all they cared about. And, that was their identity. That's what their identity was wrapped up in. But we talked to 35 people on Wednesday, not just 35 football players, which I think is really cool. And again, a testament to what has already been instilled in the first 2.5 years of the Venables era. And then the other thing that stood out to me, the third thing, is that I think if you're a Sooner fan and you're mindful of the weapons that Jackson Arnold is going to have at his disposal and the ways he's going to use them or be able to use them in 2024, I think you have a great deal of confidence in Nick Anderson, right? You got a great deal of confidence in Andrell Anthony coming back. You got a great deal of confidence in the Purdue transfer, Deion Burks. But Venables said that he has seen the best version of Jalil Farouk to this point in the year, and he's seen the best version of Jaden Gibson. And so I know Farouk is a guy that left a sour taste in the mouths of a lot of fans with his performance in the Alamo Bowl. He fumbled twice, obviously, because of the circumstances, the fact that the Sooners lost that game. A lot of fans went into the offseason very much upset with Farouk. And, he's probably not looked upon in as favorable of a light as he would be if he just simply hadn't caught a pass or had missed that game somehow. He's still probably not getting as much buzz as Anderson and Anthony for what they did last year. And with Burks being the new guy, it's understandable that those three guys would be commanding the headlines. But let's not forget, Farouk is a guy that has done a lot, has contributed regularly, has been a consistent go-to guy in this offense. Maybe not the go-to guy, but consistently productive game after game for this offense, and at times has come up with huge performances when they really needed them. 5 catches for 130 yards against Texas, including a big one on the final drive, is a great example. And Jaden Gibson, we know what he brings to the table, right? Athleticism, height, sheer size. He's a mismatch. But the fact remains, he's still fighting an uphill battle to see consistent snaps in this offense next year because of the way that some of the guys already ahead of him on this depth chart have taken advantage of the opportunities that they've been given. So I think if there were 2 receivers that you wanted to hear Venables specifically shout out, it's probably Farouk and Gibson, because they were the 4th and 5th guys in that conversation when you're talking about the upper echelon of wide receivers at Oklahoma. But they were still seemingly and are still seemingly a step behind Anderson and Anthony and Burks with regard to how much we expect from them and how much we are buzzing about them heading into 2024.
Absolutely. Look, Jalil Farouk like you said, I guess for a lot of OU fans, he left a sour taste in their mouth because of the fumbles. But you also noted how good he was during the season at times. I mean, what did he end up with total? I think it was close to 600 yards, right? Something to that extent
Gosh, I
on
don't
the
remember.
season.
I don't remember off the
But
top of my head.
he had a
694 yards on
yeah, okay,
45 catches.
almost 700 yards. Like I think and I talked about this on the live, Parker. A lot of people look at the negative, and that's really what they focus on more than the positive. And I even said exactly what you said on the live. I said that guy helped who you beat Texas. Without him, you don't beat Texas without him that day. Like he made big play after big play after big play for Oklahoma during the 2023 season. But then he would have that really bad, glaringly bad play that would cost Oklahoma, whether it was a fumble against Kansas, whether it was a drop just dime that Dylan Gabriel threw to him down the sideline against Oklahoma State, whether it was the two fumbles against Arizona. I mean, in the three losses, he played a part in that. And the thing is Jalil would own it. So to hear Venables come out and just talk him up and say, look, this guy has been unbelievable. He's been one of the best players for us all off season. He's been one of our hardest workers. He's been a leader. He's been all of the above for Oklahoma. So I that was huge, and it was almost shocking because he did it, Parker, without being asked. Like they asked about the wide receivers, and that was the first name he brought up was Jalil Farouk, which I thought was to me that's telling. Right when the head coach, you asked for the wide receivers, you were thinking of Deion Burks, you're thinking of Nick Anderson, you're thinking of I'm trying to think of all the other really good players Oklahoma has. Um, and then Jalil Farouk gets brought up. Just number one, like he's been the leader, he's been doing this, he's been doing that, and you're just like, okay, maybe the light bulb has finally clicked. Because I remember last year, or at least last offseason, there was buzz of missed workouts, right? There was buzz of things of that ilk. So he's not doing those things this year. And maybe that rolls into, the mistakes, the turnovers, and maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But one thing I can tell you is that he's going to be more focused. So there's going to be less of an opportunity for those type of things to happen, negative wise at least. And to me, that's a positive for Oklahoma moving forward. Yeah, your wide receiver unit's loaded. It's loaded. I mean, Venables talked about it. It's ridiculous. And you brought in two or three really good players on top of that. So you've I mean Emmett's got a lot to deal with there. He's gonna have to juggle some egos, that's for sure. But I thought the other thing that stood out to me was just how he professed about the defensive line, talking about Brent Venables, just his overall happiness. And the question was asked about obviously Lacey, right? Jacob Lacey retiring, all that type of stuff. And it's heartbreaking what he's going through. And his life was on the line twice already with the blood clots. So it was a good move. And I asked, I think it was who was it? Which one? Oh, it was Jaden Jackson. I asked him because he brought up Jacob Lacey to me, just without being pressured or without me bringing the name up. And he said, "Hey, anytime I need something, he's still around the program. He's still talking. He's still leading. He's still doing the things that needs to be done." And so I think, yeah, you lose a starter, but you get like an extra coach, Parker. I think you get that extra voice, right? That's in those young guys' ear. And as glowing as Venables talked about them, as glowing as sources have talked about Jaden Jackson, Danny Okoye, David Stone all off season. You still need that mature voice in that room. And that's what he's going to provide, right? He's going to be that calm in the storm for them in really bad situations because he's been through it at Notre Dame. He's been through it at Oklahoma. I guess the big question for me, Parker, is at the end of the day, do you think Oklahoma goes and gets a transfer portal player at defensive line? I think it's guaranteed at offensive line, but do you think they actually do it knowing the numbers after spring, or are you a wait and see type guy? I know the rumors. I know the rumors out there. Like we know that, but
Oh yeah.
what do you feel is going to take place?
I think I think a lot is going to depend on how David Stone and Jaden Jackson actually look when the
Agreed.
pads come on. Because and you already got to see a little bit of Jaden Jackson
And he was good,
in the bowl
really good.
practices.
Yep.
And people spoke highly of him. But still, like if you I think by the end of spring, you will at least have an inkling as to whether you're going to be able to rely on those guys to give you key snaps, to give you meaningful, crucial snaps in big games
Right.
as true freshmen. If you feel confident in those two, I really don't think there's a need to go get another one because at that point, you're going to have at the very least 4 guys that you can rely on in Dejon Terry, Stone and Jackson, and then Grayson Halton. Who knows what happens with Champ Sanders? He could work his way into that conversation as well. He's another guy that Brent Venables shouted out. He talked about Marcus Strong's development. And so,
yep.
And Devon Sears, that's kind of a flyer at this point, right? If it works out, great. Like if it
My
works out,
face,
great.
your face, they all said it right when you brought the name up.
If it works out, awesome. If it doesn't, you're only committed to him for one more year. So
yeah,
I truly don't think there is an immediate need for another defensive tackle if you feel confident in what you have with Stone and Jackson. Now, if you get to the point after spring where you're like, they're good, but probably not guys that we want to have to rely on in SEC play, then I think it makes sense to go grab somebody, but it's got to be a difference maker, right? And we've talked about that. You're not bringing in another Phil Paya. There's no reason to with your current numbers situation.
Is he still on the roster?
No, he's gone, which was weird because he insisted he had 2 years of eligibility left.
Yeah, he did.
I remember specifically asking him because he had put it out there. I was like, are
well,
you
people
sure?
at OU said he had 2 years.
Are you sure you have 2 years of eligibility left?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. And no, he's not around anymore. So I think he was one. I think he played in one game last year for Oklahoma. Anyway, regardless, I will add this. Nigel Smith and Wyatt Gilmore are freaking huge.
They're massive human beings.
Like, I'm trying to envision those two dudes playing the edge, and
Nigel's going to be a D tackle. You and I both know it.
And like honestly, man, I feel you on that, but I almost feel more strongly about that with regard to Wyatt than Nigel. Wyatt looks like a guy that could carry 300 plus pounds easily and be a menace with 300 plus pounds on his frame. And he's a long way from there, sure. But
be a Matt Diamond with a good back out, obviously. But yeah.
I mean, Miguel Chavis, and he already got a guy that turned into an interior dude in Grayson Halton. But what he's done is he's gotten the speed guys, the undersized guys, if you will. And undersized is very, very loosely applied. But he went and got Armason Thomas in the class of 2022. He went and got PJ in the class of 2023. You know, the speed, the finesse guys off the edge. They both got some power, but their strength is in their quickness and their dexterity. And then in 2024, man, he loaded up with a trio of dudes that might just as easily slide to the inside at the collegiate level as they may stick a defensive end. Because Damian Koye is 255, man.
255 running a 4.56. And okay, so in that interview, you have to understand that, Parker, you and I know Danny. And we were probably outside of Eddie, the only people in that room that knew Danny. Like without question.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to him and I think it was Myron Patton, and there was a couple of other people that were standing around and trying to think who else, but anyways, there was a lot of people around Danny. And that just kind of shows you the hype that he's had already. Like people are taking notice. That's how I know when people in our in the media are on our board because they when you they go for the scrum, they open it up and like David Stone's easy. But like everybody ran to Jaden Jackson, everybody ran to Danny Okoye, right? Everybody ran to Michael Hawkins was easy as well. But like the guys that we have talked about being like dudes this offseason, everybody kind of ran to him like, oh, I've heard you done this. I'm listening to him say all this. So um I'll say this. I was talking to a couple of media members after we were walking away from Danny Okoye, and they both kind of looked at me. He's like, "Has he always been that good at an interview?" I'm like, "Yes."
Yep.
Like he is phenomenal. He's so smart, so witty, so just he's always present. When you're talking to him, he's present and he's going to give you the best answer that you possibly could get from him. So, um I I love the kid. I think when you look at when he stood up, I was in shock. Like him telling me 255, and then when he stands up at 6'4", 255, he already looked huge at 230. He looked huge at 230. He's 255 running a 4.56. And what stood out most to me was the OU staff is really smart. His in the Big Brother program, PJ Adebawara is his big brother, and that's smart. They have the exact same game, right? Like they're both really fast steps off the ball. Their first step is ridiculous. They both play with speed. They don't use a lot of power and they use their hands, right? Their feet and their hands is what they use the most. They're not going to power you. They're not going to bull rush you. Though I think Danny can bull rush you now, without question. If he's not 265 starting the season, that will shock me. And can you imagine 265 with the 4.56 coming off the edge as a freshman? Zero chance. Zero chance that he doesn't play. And he really gave it up to PJ. He gave it up to Ethan Downs. He gave it up to R. Mason Thomas. He said, I look to those three and I lean on them with everything. With everything. And I think he brought up Trace Ford as well. But he said, I look at all those guys, and when I need something, I can call him up. He said, but the one guy that understands me is PJ because we have the same game. We play eerily similar. We play very, very, very similar games. So I love what I hear from him. I'm really, really excited to see what he's going to do this spring because I have a funny feeling he's going to play a lot, Parker. A lot.
Yeah, I'd love it if he did because I think
I know it's a loaded room. I
yeah.
get it.
Well, that's the thing. Like if he does, boy, he's special because there is depth aplenty at the edge. Trace Ford, R. Mason Thomas, Caden Woolard, Ethan Downs.
Did you talk to
Obviously,
Caden
PJ.
Woolard?
I don't know which one. I think that might have been Blake that talked to Caden Woolard.
I really want to know what he was like.
Yeah, I know. Just I've had a few conversations with his dad, and one of the things his dad told me was he's just not the biggest interview person.
Yeah.
I was watching earlier today. Actually, I was watching some of his interview on YouTube. Didn't watch the whole thing, but he seemed to be handling himself pretty well.
He's a big guy.
Yeah,
OU
he's
fans, you're
huge.
gonna like. He's huge. He's huge. He's every bit of 265, 270. He's huge. He is long too. Like he was. I did not expect him to be that long, Parker. Like that shocked me.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's easy to, and I know people have done this. This is why I bring it up. I know it's easy to look at a guy like that and go, well, he got 9.5 sacks last year, sure, but it was in the MAC. How impressive can he actually be? Again, folks, I will remind you that before Braden Fisk made a 1 year detour at Florida State, he was a MAC guy too, and he's probably about
Jared
to be a first
Verse.
round draft pick.
Jared Verse was from Albany.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes, I think especially what ought to be understood with Caden Willard is that the reason he ended up at Miami of Ohio, the primary reason is because he was a late bloomer who was in the COVID class.
Huh.
If he is coming out this year, for instance, or even last year, 2 years ago, if his senior year does not coincide with the COVID-19 pandemic, he is probably a P5 guy somewhere. As it was, he went to Miami of Ohio because it was close. They showed him love. He didn't really have attention from any bigger schools. And he committed to the Red Hawks, signed with the Red Hawks without ever taking an official visit anywhere, which just goes to show you there are guys that fall through the cracks. And Caden
Yeah.
Willard was definitely one of those guys.
Well, he's really good. His dad obviously played at Bowling Green, I believe.
Yep.
His dad's a big guy too. From I mean, at least
Yeah, not
from
quite
what we
Caden big. I think
see.
he's 6'1", 6'2". Caden's 6'5".
Yeah, but I mean, he looked nice size in the photos that he posts all the time. Um, all right, so we got 35 interviews. We got Brent Venables. We've talked about that on the live. You can go watch that there. We've talked about a little bit of it here, but what I really want to know is what are the three things you're looking for this spring? Like, what are you looking for and hope that Oklahoma can accomplish this spring to prepare themselves heading into the SEC?
That's a good question. I don't
Yeah,
know if
and I
it's
should have told you I was going to do that before this, but
yeah. Well, not like that.
I threw it at you because I wanted you to think about it.
I don't know if it's a question that has an obvious answer. I think maybe the most obvious is
I think it's a personal preference.
figure out what's going on with the offensive line and figure out special teams. Um, those were the issues, or I'm sorry, those are the issues that probably loom the largest. Special teams was obviously an issue that cost you dearly last year in the couple of games that you lost. And so I know that's a little thing, right? But the little things matter, and the little things are going to be magnified in the SEC. So with Doug Deacon coming in to coordinate the Sooner special teams efforts, I expect there's a lot of attention paid in spring ball and in fall camp to making sure it is a well-oiled machine in that phase of the game. And I think the one thing that the horse that we will beat into the ground between now and August 31st is the offensive line, just
Yeah.
because we don't know. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know what that starting five is. We don't know which permutation of five guys Bill Bedenbaugh is going to roll out. And we really don't have the first clue. I mean, got a pretty good sense that Fabechi Nawawu is going to be at one of those guard spots that Michael Tarquin said he's going to play tackle. You got Troy Everett at center, and Jacob Sexton is going to be your mainstay at left tackle. But there's a lot up in the air.
I
There's a
think we
lot that
know
can
Garrett
change.
Hatchett's going to start. You don't think so? He was a
I'm
starter on the Joe Moore Award winning
I'm not
offensive
handing it
line.
to him. I'm not handing it to him.
That
I think,
gum.
yeah. No, look, I think he's probably like if there was a betting favorite, it would be him. But I'm not handing it to him by any means.
Who's beating him out?
Well, I think Heath Ozida is a guy that I'm really
Okay,
excited to
that's
see what.
fair.
Yep, excited to see what kind of progress he makes. Jake Taylor's a guy that I think he's going to make some noise somewhere.
He's gonna play
Where that
tackle.
is,
Yeah.
where that is, I don't know. We've seen him at tackle. We've seen him at guard through his first 2 years at Oklahoma. Hasn't started yet. Uh, what happens? I mean, what happens if Josh Bates has a really, really strong fall camp? You know, you got to make room for him somewhere. So I think there's a lot that's up in the air, and a lot of it is highly dependent upon who really pops off in spring ball and in fall camp. And so I like the one guy, no, the two guys. The two guys that I can confidently project as starters right now are Sexton and Nuwawu. Outside of that, pretty much anybody's game.
I guess that's fair, but the people I talk to feel like Everett basically has that center position locked down. But we've heard that before, and Beatonbow has shocked people by who ends up starting. That's not exclusive to center at all. That's just in general. But I refuse to believe that Lane Johnson's doppelganger is not one of the starting offensive linemen. Talking about Garen Hatchett. And if you haven't seen it,
Okay,
man,
just
go
because he
look at.
looks like Lane Johnson doesn't mean he plays like Lane Johnson.
I understand that, but I refuse to live in a world where somebody that even looks like him isn't the starter, particularly at Oklahoma. So, no, I guess the three for me would be I want to see the tight end room. I want to see what they do and who really. They always say the cream rises to the top, right? I want to see who that cream is. Like, I
Let me
want to see. Go ahead.
let me ask you a question on that note. How much do you think Oklahoma really needs the tight end in 2024?
I think you need it because I think you need a security blanket for Jackson. It's year one, man. Having a good tight end makes an offense makes a quarterback look really, really good. Makes the quarterback look, particularly a young quarterback. Does that make sense? Like
It does,
that check down
but I
and
guess
it being there for you to get that first down or make a play is critical.
what prompts me to ask that question is we've talked so extensively about how deep the wide receiver room is. And there's
No,
obviously
I
like
get what you're saying.
and a
I
lot of
get it.
those guys at wide receiver are really good blockers. I mean, that's one thing. That was an area of noticeable improvement last year. Emmett Jones had those dudes blocking their tails off on the outside. And so I think there's a lot to be intrigued about in the tight end room. But I guess maybe the question could have been more clearly asked like this. If Oklahoma doesn't have a guy at tight end, the guy at tight end in 2024, is that going to drastically inhibit this offensive ability to function?
I don't know that it drastically inhibits it, but I think it slows it down a bit. I think on a third down, you want somebody that is, that good, that is gonna be able to if you say everybody's covered and he's running a a choice route and and the option route is a stick or an out and he's got a 5 yard. The zone allows you to have that 5 yard out and Jackson hits it and they need 7 yards and that tight end's able to go get that extra 2 yards because that a big burly dude running through DBs. So I think it helps. It's a comfortability thing, right? Like Jackson's senior year, he had one of the better tight ends in the state of Texas, playing at North Texas now, right? Like you just need that. It's just a comfortability thing for quarterbacks to have a really good tight end. But I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think not having a really good tight end is gonna be an extra loss on the win loss column. Like I don't think that. I just think it's really good for the offense, really good for Jackson's growth. So I would love to see Bauer Sharp or uh, Jake Roberts or Devon Mitchell or Caden Helms really come through, or even Josh Fanuel. Like I would love to see those guys be really good. Right now, Josh Fanuel's running with the ones. He wasn't even, I guess he was like the third string tight end last year. So he's a, wouldn't that be awesome though if another basketball guy became just an elite tight end? Once again, isn't that like old hat? Like you always know if they're 6'5", 6'6" basketball players and they go play football, they're going to be good tight ends if they really put in the work. And it'd be really cool to see if Faneuil can pull that off. I think the other you talked about the offensive line. I think for me, what they do at corner and what they do at Cheetah is going to be interesting because we've heard buzz of Woody Washington sliding inside. It'd be in August. It would be Woody Washington at Cheetah with Kendall Dolby. You would have Des Malone or Des Malone at one corner, Gentry Williams at the other corner. I think that would be an interesting, at least corner Cheetah combination. And obviously, you would have RSJ and Billy Bowman slash Peyton Bowen as your other safety as your safety. So those are the things I'm really looking forward to. And I think on a fourth note, really Jackson Arnold taking control of the offense and the team. And fifth, I want to see Javonte Barnes bust out again. I want to see him have he didn't go through spring last year. I want to see what he looks like this spring. So I think it's the first time Oklahoma's had a really healthy running back room going into spring in probably 3 years. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy to think about. Under Armour camp. Well, do we want to talk junior day first?
I mean, gosh, at this point we've hit a
Let's
lot
just
of
all the
storylines.
25 guys. Just talk about the 25 guys real quick.
Yeah, I think what is real crucial is when you look forward to this weekend is okay, what do they have the opportunity to do with some of these 2025 targets? The biggest one is Trent Wilson. I think that's pretty well established. I mean, the highest ranked guy that they're going to have him down is Andrew Marsh at wide receiver, but with 3 wide receiver commits in the class, feels like the highest priority guy by a long shot is Trent Wilson, just because of the caliber of player that he is and the position that he plays. Now, getting Amarian Robinson back on campus is going to be big for Oklahoma to try and pull ahead of Oregon and ahead of Georgia. And, there are certainly those that believe Oklahoma already leads. And I think, there's an element of truth in the thought that that Oklahoma makes the most sense for Amarian because of the proximity, certainly. But whenever you're going up against Oregon and Georgia for a defensive player, specifically a safety, man, like Georgia has recruited the safety position exceptionally well the last few years. And Oregon, I don't know if there is a school that has been more of a thorn in Brandon Hall's side than Oregon in the last few cycles. And then at wide receiver, man, Marsh, Quincy Porter, and Tanook Hines all coming in, all blue chippers in the 2025 class. I love the way Emmett Jones recruits, man, because he just somehow, some way, he manages to get these blue chippers from all over the country in Norman at some point, whether they come back or not. I mean, Xavier Jordan was in Norman at one point last year. Quasi Gilmer came to Norman. All these guys that, you would figure geographically, Oklahoma's not going to be a major player for them. And yet, by hook or by crook, Emmett has them showing up to campus. And this would be Quincy Porter's first trip. He's coming all the way from New Jersey. And I know the Sooner staff is absolutely stoked to have him on campus, as they very well should be.
Great.
Now, who ends up being that fourth wideout? Well, got a pretty good sense at this point it's not going to be Isaiah Mosey. So safe money's probably on Manny Choice, but it's pretty much anybody's game. Let's see if they can get Hines or Porter or even Andrew Marsh to finalize official visit plans this weekend while on campus.
All right. So that's big. And there's a lot. We'll have that all covered for you on OU Insider VIP, along with all the 26 kids that will be in town, which is just an insane list of elite kids. On top of that, there's the Under Armour camp at Arlington Martin this weekend. You and I will be at, and I'm looking at you got a manual choice. Well, first and foremost, before I even get into that, I think that's just ridiculous to even bring up without bringing up. Here are the top kids that will be there for Parker and I. And guess what? You all will know all these kids. Michael Fasusi, 5-star offensive lineman. Lamont Rogers, 4-star offensive lineman, who will also be in Norman on Monday. Ty Haywood, 5-star offensive lineman. Dalen McCutcheon, one of the top wide receivers in the country that Oklahoma's been after. Elijah Thomas, Oklahoma wide receiver commit. Amarian Robinson, OU safety target. Keelan Russell, the quarterback for committed to SMU. Montez Williams,
Taz Williams is what he goes by.
Taz Williams, wide receiver. Cornelius Warren the third. DeAndre Ryden committed to committed to Texas A&M. OU was after him out of DeSoto. Michael Turner, running back. That Oklahoma's after the 4-star running back. And then you got a choice that'll be there. We talked about him. As my mic does that again, dadgummit.
Yeah, well, tell me if you recognize any of these names, folks. Emmanuel Choice, Malik Hawkins, Owen Hollenbeck,
Yep.
Marcus James, Riley Pettyjohn. Oklahoma's not going to get him, but top 100 dude nonetheless.
He's got no offer.
CJ Simon, Xavier Uponu.
Yep.
Marcus Wimberly, Legend Bay, Brock Boyd, Drew Evers, Markel Ford, Bryce Gilmore, Mason James, Toa Katoa, Riley Kester, Zayden Crimpen, Darius McKinley, Rylan Morris, Amarian Porter. Holy smokes, man.
Oh, I can give you three more
Feaster.
names. I can give you three more names. Jaden and JT Johnson will be there. Jacoby Johnson's twin brothers out of Mustang. And Kason Delgado, freshman quarterback for Tulsa Union, that played the last 4 games of the season for Tulsa Union when Utah commit Shaker Rising was hurt, took them to the state semis. He is going to be one of the top 27 quarterbacks in the country, along obviously with Tyson Poguy, but Poguy's got AU basketball. But the fact that you got those other 3 Oklahoma kids coming down, like, and you add that to the list that you talked about, Parker, and that I named up front, insane. If you're an Oklahoma fan. Like, that is what you want right there. I love it. I love it.
We're going to have a long work day on Sunday, man.
Yeah, it's going to be ridiculous. Gonna be ridiculous. Then I got to drive all the way back to do 7-on-7 practice for my kids. So it's going to be a long, long, long day. And Saturday is going to be long. We got to be there at 10:45. 10:45, and probably won't get out there. He's a quarterback, so he's going to be the last to go, right? Like the one-on-ones and all that crap. So we'll be there till 3 o'clock. Then I'll see you there again. Rise and shine. What time are you going to be there?
On Sunday?
Yeah.
I mean, it usually gets rolling, 8:45 or so?
Yeah.
Guys start streaming in. So, yeah.
Oh, man.
They're good and early.
All right. Well, there you go, guys. We're going to have all that for you on OU Insider VIP, spring ball, visits, camps, 7-on-7. Right now is the perfect time to sign up. You can even go month to month, $9.95 a month, right? We'll get you all that. You could do 2 months, $20. That's like 4 trips to Starbucks. For 2 months, you get OU Insider, and you get to mingle with thousands and thousands and thousands of OU fans. It is awesome. It's worth it. And you get to talk to Parker and I every day if you want to. You put a question up, we answer it. It's real simple. We mingle with you, and you get to mingle with a bunch of OU fans on top of that. And you get insider information. Rivals has hired a bunch of new regional guys and national guys. They're all over the place. Like, I'll give it up, man. Marshall Levinson's come in, and he's been rocking. Like, he's been throwing stuff up on the board like crazy. John Garcia out of Florida throwing stuff up on the board on like crazy. Like, we got guys. Rivals has got guys now that are doing and putting information up on our board. So it's only going to get better and better and better as you go along, and as we get closer and closer and closer to June and July when decisions are going to be made. So if you sign up now, $9.99 a month, or $9.95 a month, excuse me, or $99.95 will get you all the way to what is it, March 9th of 2025. All of SEC season, SEC Media Day, Champion Barbecue, Party in the Palace, spring game, spring practices, all the visits, all that. And you get it up front. Like, you get all that. You pay now, you get to be with us for a whole year. So give us a shot. Also, subscribe to this YouTube channel or to whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. For Parker Thune, my name is Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed night.